Oysters have been on this island for a long time. When Henry Hudson sailed up the Hudson River, he saw miles and miles of beautiful oyster reefs. But now, all of these gorgeous oyster reefs are gone. Oysters were known as the quintessential NYC food long before pizza, bagels, soft pretzels, and hot dogs were known to our shellfish-encrusted shores. When Henry Hudson sailed up the Hudson River, or in his days, a river, he had to sail the Half Moon around 330 acres of wild oyster beds in order to dock the Half Moon and land at Manhattan. All he saw was oyster beds, not a hot dog cart in sight.
Oysters have many different purposes, but in the 19th and early 20th century, they abused the oyster population by eating and harvesting too many of them.
Oysters were tasty bivalves that could be used for mortar and were rich in protein, iron, selenium, vitamin C, and much more. Also, they could be used for fossil fuels. With all these uses and how much people ate them, there was piles and piles of oyster shells every single day.
Oyster shells were some of the strongest building materials used in the late 19th and early 20th century to build buildings, roads, and train tracks. They used oyster shells for mortar, which was used to hold buildings together.
People in the late 19th century used oyster shells that came from the oysters that they ate to create mortar called tabby. The way tabby was made was taking sand and oyster shells and grinding them up together.
The first oyster was eaten by Jonathan Swift, who lived in the 18th century. He was known to be very brave to eat something no one had ever eaten before.
But this precocious little bivalve can filter up to 1 gallon of water an hour. That might not seem like a lot, but just think, what would happen if you put 1 billion of these into this?
That's exactly what the folks at the New York Harbor School, located on Governor's Island, are trying to do with the Billion Oyster Project.
What some people do not know about oysters is that to live they need something to latch onto, and the prime thing to latch onto is a dead oyster shell. If you donate or help support the Billion Oyster Project, they will do just that and give dead oysters a purpose to live and alive oysters a place to live.